Okay, welcome to Positivity. It's the way to go. He is a freelance writer and journalist. Welcome, I guess, today, Albert Lanier. How you doing, man? How was football week, man? What surprised you over the weekend?
Yo, it's week 14 of the NFL. What surprised me? I think what surprised me is, hmm, I think what surprised me is maybe the continual controversy over refereeing. Like that shouldn't be a surprise, but it is. I guess with the Steelers Ravens game, let's talk about the the
Oh yeah,
refereeing in that
The
game.
Isaiah Likely, yeah, the Isaiah Likely play. It's like it reminds me of like the Dez Bryant catch. It's like what is a catch in the NFL today? I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like maybe certain things change as the rules change, right? And that's a good point. Things don't always stay the same. Well, the thing about the NFL is I call it the not fair league.
Well, that's like college football, Notre Dame, that's been a big topic. Notre Dame not being in the playoffs, Did you
Mm.
want to discuss that? Because the Notre
Well,
Dame
I don't
AD was on Dan
I
Patrick,
I
and he
don't
was,
follow see the thing is I don't follow college football anymore. I haven't in a long time. So I'm not into college football.
oh yeah,
So it's not my thing. I haven't seen it in. I haven't. So I hear bits and pieces here about what's going on with these teams and so forth. But yeah, I don't really deal with college football. I could talk about it, but I would say I heard that Notre Dame didn't make the playoffs after only losing,
two
you
games,
know,
yeah, yeah,
two
and
games.
Miami
And I
got
was
in,
talking about this. I just
get
did a
backed up.
pre-record for my show. For the show, I do my NFL Hot Topic segment on, which is called the Writer Report. By the way, if people want to check out the Writer Report, go to mixlr.com. That's mixlr.com. You can also find the Writer Report episodes on YouTube. I think it's at the Writer Report YouTube channel, and you could check it out there. But I was just talking a little about, or it was mentioned to me that Notre Dame didn't make the college playoffs, and because I was asked, "Am I glad that there is no playoff committee in the NFL?" And I have to say, yeah, I'm glad that well, the NFL just has the playoff structure when they've always had a
Yeah,
playoff structure, right? I think the change was the wild card, which they
yeah,
introduced
yeah, yeah.
decades ago. But when you look at the college playoff system, it's like this Frankenstein's monster. I mean, it really is. All these years I had heard people complain, when is college football going to have playoffs? When are playoffs coming to college football? Playoffs finally come to college football, and it's the same old frustration. This team doesn't get in, that team doesn't get in, and it's what the last I heard it was like four teams, right? It's a four-team structure or something like that.
No,
Maybe we expanded
it's
it.
a 12 team playoff. And they have a ranking
Okay.
system.
That's
They
I
had a
don't
ranking
follow it. That's
system
how I'm
every
behind.
week,
Right.
weekly on ESPN.
Right. So 12
Yeah, but
teams and he still can't get it right. 12 teams and you
well,
still
yeah,
can't get it.
the thing is Virginia lost to Duke, so and then that created chaos in James Madison. And I think Notre Dame will beat James Madison and Tulane. They're in the playoff right now. I think I don't have a problem with Tulane. I think they need to just go to 16 teams, That way it'll be 11 at-large bids and five champions. That means every champion will get in anyway. But I think the ACC messed up with not having Miami in the championship game. That messed Notre Dame up.
Again, if you look at the structure, you still have the championships and you still have the bowls. Like you could integrate the bowls along with the playoffs. That's not a problem. But because the bowls at this point are really showcases, right? They've always been kind of showcases for teams, right? You win a bowl, you win some money. Basically, it's making money, and it's also rankings. It gets into the hierarchy of college football. So if you win a bowl game, it means you've had success in the year, right? But when you look at the playoffs, you got what 16 now. Like I said, I haven't. I stopped
It's
paying
four.
attention to college football a long time
It's
ago.
14 games. And the top four teams get buys. Like the NFL, there's only one team get a buy now in the NFL. Unlike before, it would be two teams get a buy. But in college
So,
football,
like I
four
said,
teams get a buy, and then they
it's
all
the
play.
Frankenstein. It's this Frankenstein's monster in college football, and they still haven't gotten it right. So, yeah, to me, it's still going to be a lot of unhappy people, just like it was before the playoffs, where people were mad that this team didn't get chosen as potential number one or potential national championship. You have a playoff system, but it hasn't solved the problem. Same problem,
Exactly.
playoff system. Doesn't Nothing changes in college football.
That's like the job market. It's the same that now as it was a year ago.
Well, it's worse for what I mean. I look at this when you look at the economy is real bad. I look at videos like on YouTube and these TikTok videos also that are on YouTube. And it's like people 100 applications and not getting work. People out of work 6 months or more and not getting work, and people being laid off. They say there's at least 1 million jobs that are lost now. I mean, this economy is really bad. I don't even know if
Yeah.
recession would be a word. I've heard depression emerge as to what might happen in 2026. I mean, it's really bad. It's very bad.
I can't even get interviews, Albert, and I'm a YouTuber and I got a bachelor's degree in marketing. I'm like, what the world? I'm not even getting interviews.
It's like what I'm seeing online. It's
It's
like what I'm seeing on
hilarious.
YouTube. You talked about you're on YouTube. On YouTube, I'm seeing people say, I can't get hired to work at Chipotle or McDonald's or Jack in a Box.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
It's
how
like
bad
who
this
getting all
economy
these
is.
it's like who getting all these jobs? Like AI robots? I didn't know robots were taking
Apparently,
over right.
yeah. Well, nobody's getting the jobs because they're getting rid of the jobs. But they're
Yeah,
lying to people and
exactly.
saying it's AI.
Yeah, exactly. They're like AI
They're-
gonna take
because
my
AI
job.
is because AI is a factor, but it's not a factor. They're using AI. A
Exactly.
lot of these companies and corporations are using AI to kind of as a fake out. In basketball where you go like that and you fake someone out and you
Yeah.
go and make a move and
You
you
break
hit
their
the
ankles.
basket.
You break
That's
their
precisely
ankles.
what they're doing to people. Probably even look like you. They're saying they're trying to fake out on you, right?
Exactly. It's like our
Right,
interviews or we fake each other out where we act like we didn't hear each other.
right. And so you got to spend the time on the bench.
As yeah, I'm
People
a
are spending
starter
time on
though,
the bench.
Albert. Albert.
When they're trying to get on the floor and make moves, they can't because they're faked out.
Yeah, Albert. I'm a starter though, Albert. I'm not no
So,
bench player.
right.
I'm a
But
starter though,
you
Albert.
know,
Nobody
go
puts
ahead.
me on a bench.
Okay, but it's a hard world out there. It's a hard economy. It's really bad. I'm
Yeah.
glad I retired 8 years ago, but even now, I don't know if I can come out of retirement. I just keep myself busy. I keep
Hey,
myself
Albert.
busy with my Substack newsletters. I'm on Substack, by the way, for those of you. I'm actually write about film. My life is kind of interesting in that I actually my focus is on films and writing
You
about
you you
movies
you
and doing a podcast. Go ahead.
you the next Adnan Burke. You remember
I've
Adnan
heard
Burke?
that.
He do.
I've heard that name somewhere. Who is Adnan
Yeah,
Virk?
you like him. Well, he used to be on ESPN and now he on MLB Network. He do a lot of movie reviews. He always talk about movies.
So is this guy? So, but he's a sports guy, right?
Yeah. He covered MLB
Right. So,
Network now.
right. So I'm the opposite. I'm a
Yeah.
movie guy because I used to be a print journalist and freelance writer. I'm still a writer, but I'm no longer a freelancer and a journalist. I retired back in 2017 from journalism. But I'm a former film reviewer. I was a film reviewer for 8 years, the time I was a journalist. And now I'm kind of a sports guy because I'm doing this NFL segment on a show called The Writer Report, which I mentioned before. People can find it xlr.com, but and on YouTube. But I find myself a sports guy. I was never a sports guy. I was always into movies. I was always into literature. I studied literature and history and literature in college. Got my degree basically in it. Minored in history. But I've never been a sports fanatic or sports nerd or geek or dweeb or anything like that. And that was the whole point of my podcast last year outside the NFL when I did it for about a season. The premise of that show was it's an average guy's view, a guy who just watches the NFL. I'm not a dweeb sports. Well, I'm not a dweeb. I'm not a sports geek, a sports nerd, sports fanatic. But so I find myself in a position that's very different. Like again, I'm not a sports guy, but apparently I play one on YouTube and on podcast. And I don't play one, I am one apparently. It's weird. It's just like my introduction to my show on YouTube, the Wise Guy Show. I said I'm not a wise guy, but for all intents and purposes here on YouTube, I filled a role. So it's interesting. But yeah, so I'm basically a former film reviewer who finds himself a analyst of the NFL on a local sports show or on a sports show. That's what I do.
Yeah, but
Which is how I wound up here on your lovely little show.
let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. Do you think the dynasty is over, man? Because I think people always overrate them and stuff, and like they think Mahomes that they want him to play Superman like Josh Allen. You know, Josh Allen winning because that he got better weapons around him, and his offensive line is more healthy right now. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, years ago, the Cincinnati Reds in the major leagues, when they were a really successful team, used to get called the Big Red Machine. And that's what I've called the Kansas City Chiefs in the NFL, the NFL's version of the Big Red Machine. After seeing them yesterday get beaten by the Texans and really beating themselves, I now call the Kansas City Chiefs the Big Dead Machine because I think the dynasty for the most part is dead. It's dead for this year. Now, maybe they can make a comeback next season. We'll see. But for now, at least as regards this season, the Chiefs certainly aren't going to win the division. It looks like the Denver Broncos are going to do that. And they certainly may not even make the playoffs. It's looking unlikely that they will. And if you look at this team, I think they've just run out of gas. I said this, I was doing earlier, I was doing a pre-record for the writer review. So I do pre-records now for the show. I don't know if I should give that away, but I don't go live anymore because of basketball and it's late. So I do my segment pre-recorded. I like going live, but it's a lot easier. But I said on the show that the problems for the Kansas City Chiefs really stemmed from the Super Bowl. You look at that Super Bowl, they collapsed. Their offensive line was decimated by the Eagles' defense, and Mahomes was running for his life. And this Kansas City team has really been struggling. They had a really good season last year where they won games they shouldn't have. And anybody who watched last year in the NFL knows Kansas City got really fortunate. They got really lucky. Some people might say because the refs liked them. That's a whole
Yeah, the
other
referees,
story.
yeah.
That's a whole other story. But I can tell you that they they were on borrowed time last year. I knew it would run out at some point, and it has. People have noted that the Chiefs, some of these other analysts say they're losing games they would have won last year. That's true. But what's more important is you look at this game with the Texans. The playmakers aren't able to make plays at times. You look at the end with Kelsey's interception.
He washed though,
Um,
man. Kelsey is washed, man. Kelsey is washed. You know, this gonna be his last season, man. And they got little wide receivers. You know that they're gonna be 30 million over the cap next year. So they can't even sign players because they gonna owe 30 million next year. So who they gonna sign when they owe 30 million? And Chris Jones is good but not great. The defensive line, you know. I don't
Again,
think people
good but
feel
not
them
great. That's
anymore.
a good
People
way to
don't feel.
describe that team. In fact, I would
Yeah,
describe them
well,
as mediocre. They're a mediocre
well, people
team
don't
that
feel.
managed to be good, have a good record for a brief time, and now they're back to being basically
Well,
subpar and mediocre.
well,
They
I
are
don't
where
want to hear.
they are where they should be,
Oh,
really.
well, I
But
don't want
here's
to.
the
I don't
thing
want to hear.
about the Chiefs. Before you go on, the thing about the Chiefs is this: at this point in the AFC, if the Chiefs don't make the playoffs, it's a wide open AFC. For the first time in years, teams
Well,
can
it
breathe
opens the door for the.
a sigh of relief.
It opened up for the Patriots and Josh Allen, especially Josh Allen. This is like John Elway, Josh Allen. He reminded me of
Mm-hmm.
him, you know. If Josh Allen don't get it done, because I think that the Patriots gonna come out the AFC. Won't you agree?
Well, right now
Because
with the
Josh Allen don't got
Patriots,
no team around him. Josh Allen don't got no. He can't be Superman against a good defense and a good coach. You know.
but
I mean, the
here's
Patriots
what you
beat
got
them
to
the
look
first
at with
time
the
in
here's what you got
Buffalo.
to here's what you got to look at with the Bills. The Bills right now, you look at some of the games they're playing. They're playing really good right now. Yeah, they
Their
had some tough
defense
losses.
horrible though. Their defense sucks. Man,
Yeah,
if
but
Joe
their
Burrow do
defense
not
came
turn the
up.
ball over
That's why
twice,
they beat the Bengals. That's important. What you have to understand. The game they just played was a great game. It was a great contest.
they didn't turn the ball over, and Joe Burrow gave them two touchdowns basically, one pick six, and then he turned the ball over.
Yeah,
Less the Bengals would have won.
that's the Buffalo Bills defense stepping up for the. That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying. If the Bills are going to have any success getting to the playoffs and getting and in the playoffs, that defense has got to make moves like that. You got to get some pick sixes. You got to get a turnover or
yeah,
two
but
or
they
three,
not gonna they
and
not
you
gonna
got
beat
to
up
get some
the.
stops, and that's important. So the Bills defense has to do a little of what they did in that Bengals game and yesterday. That's what they have
Yeah,
to do to be successful.
yeah,
I
but the
would
pick
agree. You can't rely on Josh Allen
to be
and
Superman
purely the
all the
offense.
time.
But the
Yeah, you can't.
offense is playing well.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, when they score 20 or less, they always lose. They do not win a game if you hold them to 20 or less points this year. They lose. So you got to keep
Mm,
their offense down because they're an offensive central team. They're not a defensive central team at all. You know, their defense
I
is
would
like
agree.
bend but don't break. So you know you
I
got
would
to
agree. I agree.
you gotta help Allen play Superman and be turnover prone like he was in the past. But right now in the AFC, I think it's the Patriots and the Broncos, and I think it's everybody else because they got good defenses. And the thing is, if you run the ball and you don't turn the ball over, you're not gonna get the Bills any opportunities because Josh Allen gonna turn the ball over. He got to play Superman. Look in the Buccaneers game. He had two turnovers in that game, and the Buccaneers ran rush out over there. And the Buccaneers just lost to Tyler Shook from the New Orleans Saints. And you know he had to be Superman in order for them to be even the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's 7-6. Come on.
Well, here's the problem with the AFC. The AFC, all the teams that have winning records or are in playoff contention are all flawed. You don't have any teams that are now in a position where it's not like the NFC. Forget what happened with the Rams last week with Carolina. The Rams this week came and put a hurting on the St. Louis Cardinals in
Yeah,
week
but the Cardinals
14.
ain't the Cardinals ain't
But,
good though, man. Everybody been
but
blowing them
here's the
out.
point that I'm making, though. Here's the point that I'm making. The NFC has teams. When you look at the playoffs, it's going to be very interesting in the NFC because the NFC has teams that are pretty solid and they're pretty they're if not complete, they're close to complete. The Rams are close to complete. The Seahawks are close to complete, right? The Buccaneers were good, but they lost. They also had a tough schedule, to be brutally honest. Yes, people will say, yeah, you got to win those games. Yeah, but it's when you have a tough schedule, it's really hard. So the Buccaneers have had a really tough schedule. So when you look at what's happening with the NFC, you got teams there. I'm looking at least a couple. Even the 49ers, they've had injured playmakers and they've managed to win games. That coach has really pulled off almost a miracle with the 49ers. They managed to have a winning season thus far and play fairly well. They did it with Mac Jones and they're doing it. I think Purdy's still not there, but they're able to do it with Purdy. You look at the NFC, you've got teams that are really stable and solid, and it would be interesting to see them. I'd love to see the Rams in the Super Bowl. I'd love to see the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. I wouldn't mind seeing the 49ers. I don't think they would be able to win.
What about the Eagles though? What about the Eagles? You think they
The
out?
Eagles to
You think
me
they'll win
are
out
not.
on those two?
The Eagles to me are one of the weakest division leading teams. I said before, not only on the Writer Report, but on my own show, the Wise Guys Show. And you can check out the Wise Guys Show at Writer Albert Lanier on YouTube. Writer Albert Lanier on YouTube. But I've said the Eagles are dysfunctional. It's not just A.J. Brown. Something's going on with that team, and it's been going on for a couple of years. I noticed this before I had my own show outside the NFL last year. There's something wrong with this Philadelphia Eagles team. It's some kind of corrosive, both internal and external issues that are impacting these players, the people in the organization. There's something happening there. And the Eagles have managed to win a Super Bowl as a dysfunctional team. I don't care what anyone says. They're a dysfunctional team. And so I think at this point, when you look at the Eagles, I don't think that they can get back to the Super Bowl at this point. They could win a game in the playoffs, but I don't think so. These other teams in the NFC are really playing at a top tier level. And I think the offense, they have a good defense. Look at what the Eagles run game did to the Bears run game did to the Eagles on Black Friday, on the Black Friday game. Look at what they did. If there's a key to beating Philadelphia, it's gouging them with a run game. In fact, I don't know if anyone from the NFL watches this or would look at this, but I would say, use a run game against whatever team is that you're playing against in the playoffs. That's what I would do. I think I've lost Dion here, so hopefully he'll be back. I really know what's happened, but it was like I was saying before. I think the Eagles need the Eagles really need to. I don't really think the Eagles are going to make it in the playoffs. I think if you use a running game on the level of Chicago, and I think more importantly, if you hold on and you keep up with the Eagles up until the third and fourth quarter, and then you start pouring it on offensively. You start getting touchdowns, even field goals, and you start scoring, and you slow down that offense for Philadelphia. You got a chance to beat them. And I think that those are what I would say the keys to that. Those are basically the keys to that. And apparently, I don't know where Dion has gone, but apparently disappeared. So, um, not quite sure what has happened, folks. If anyone who will be watching this, um, something's occurred and Dion has gone off or something has happened. So I don't know quite what's happened. Okay. I guess this is called padding for time, as they would say in the broadcast world. Stretch, stretch. They would do in TV studios. So I'm not quite sure what's going on. Maybe there was a technical glitch or something happened technically, but um, I'm basically just here talking to whoever is going to watch this. So I have no idea what's happened. No clue. No idea. I don't know if the show's over or it's still onward. I have no clue. Um, by the way, like I said, as I had said earlier, I'm not technically, I don't come from a sports media background. I come from a print media background as a journalist and as a writer. And uh, I think I had done like a couple of articles. I had done like a couple of stories. I think I covered a couple of matches years ago. And that's the closest that I came to sports. And I had written for a sports magazine once or twice, local sports magazine. But that was about it. And so my background is actually more print journalism in terms of news, features, and I was a film reviewer for about 8 years, online film reviewer for about 8 years. And I used to cover film festivals um, and some other kinds of film events, but mostly film festivals. And I did film reviews. And that's, although I'm not an active film reviewer now, I still technically do film reviews for my for my um, for my newsletter retro review. So if people are interested in that, they can go to thumbsdown.substack.com. That's thumbsdown, thumbsdown .substack.com. They can go there and they can check out my reviews. I just had a new one, even though I kind of shut it down for the year. I did a new review of a movie. I think that's out of print now. A movie called Pretty Cool Too. So you can check that out. And I also have my other newsletter, film newsletter, which is called Final Cut. And if people want to check that out, they can go to allanier.substack.com. That's ALLANIER.substack.com. And they can check that out. Final Cut has a number of articles, analytical articles. I wrote an essay about analytical essay about Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs. I did one about William Friedkin's To Live and Die in L.A., among others. Excuse me. I also had a couple of articles there that were, it's not a true crime newsletter, obviously, but that had kind of a true crime feel about the case of Gary DeVore, Hollywood screenwriter, who was found dead, and actress Carol Wayne, who was found dead in Mexico. So I have a couple articles there you could check out. So a little bit of a range there in regards to pieces that people can find on Final Cut. Again, if people want to check that out, they can go to allanier.substack.com. That's allanier.substack.com. And if they want to go and check out my retro review newsletter, they can go to thumbsdown.substack.com. I also do podcasts. I have a couple of podcasts. I just did a special, two special episodes, interview episodes, with a filmmaker called Rolf Konevsky. And you could go and check that out at Substack, allanier.substack.com, or you can go to Spotify. So check out Final Cut, the podcast, by going to Spotify. And you can also check out my other podcast, also on Spotify and Substack. It's called The Write Off, and it's about writing. So I get into different kinds of fields of writing and talking to people, talking to whoever's listening about that. So you can check out The Write Off on Spotify, and you can check out my other podcast, Final Cut, on Spotify. You can check those out, as well as Substack. And I have no idea whether Dion is coming back. I have no idea what's happening here. I really don't know. So I think that's going to be it for me. Thanks for listening, folks. Enjoyed being on the show. Take care. Bye. I don't